Bring it in.
I mean, it's
Still
only
a
one
2 for 2,
misdirection.
yeah.
So it's 2 for 2, and also if he suspects him to Turok, it's pretty much the best card you can have against him. And once again, I think it's very weird for a rock-like junk deck.
Just not to have him.
To not have him, yeah. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Once again, we decided it was because Brian's mana probably couldn't support it. But it's still very strange. Not what you would expect. Alright, so it looks like the players are drawing up their opening hands. And we'll see what we have. Players looking over.
Brian Boss looks like he's keeping, but...
Yeah, it looks like Brian Boss is keeping me too. Is Korey satisfied with his hand? That is the question at this point.
Looks like he's questioning it.
Oh man, whenever, I think it was Ken Kroner who wrote once, maybe it was Rich Owen, one of the two, that if your opponent spends so long looking at their hand and then they keep, you should always be happy.
Oh yeah.
Because they probably kept it, because you know, it's usually right to mulligan more than it is to keep.
They're usually keeping then because they're too embarrassed to mulligan, you know.
Yeah, well, or you know, just like, it's a tough decision, and I think more often than not people are like, well, this could work out. I'm going to be hopeful and
get a little
work
gutsy.
Out,
yeah. If they're people are more willing to be gutsy, but like if they're a conservative person, they're not going to tank on the mulligan. They're just going to snap ship it.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Korey going down to 6 cards. Now with all that discard too, the mulliganing really hurts here.
But there's no hymns, so it can't be. It's not as rough as it could be.
Right. Yeah. Oh, mulliganing down to 6 or even 5, getting hymned.
Yeah.
It's just abysmal.
Yeah. I mulled the 4 and got him to the Grand Prix, and it was awful.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Hymn to Turok is a pretty unbelievable card.
It really is.
You play it, and sometimes that's it. The end.
Oops. Good luck.
All right, so they're off to the races. Brian Boss looks like he's cracking a fetch land, as the turn 1 play so often is.
So many fetch lands in this format.
All of them, in fact.
Yes.
You can even play Floodplain if you want to.
Or what's the Rocky Tarpit?
Rocky Tarpit, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Rocky Bullwinkle.
I mean, if you're playing turn 1 Amulet of Vigor anyway, like you're fine, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so not quite sure exactly what's going on in the game. We'll have the camera switch here in a second.
Let on a Thoughtseize. There's going to be a Brainstorm in response.
Brainstorm.
Which gets misstepped. The previous Thoughtseize took a standstill, and Korey currently just has lands in hand after all of that.
Yep.
He's got a factory, but I don't know if that's enough.
Alright, so Korey drops the Mishra's Factory down. Let's see what Brian Boss can do on his 3rd turn. And cracks Marsh Flats. Let's see what he finds. Alright, and there's a Life from the Loam. That's going to return 3 lands. Now, granted, Brian's not exactly making a ton of progress.
But he's just so far ahead on cards right now, so...
Yeah, really far ahead in cards as opposed to where Korey Fay is.
That probably doesn't matter too much in this matchup because of how big of an advantage Jace gives.
Right.
But Brian Boss is now hitting all of his land drops for the rest of the game.
Well, I think something even larger is if Brian starts dredging that Loam, he could get closer to Wasteland, and that could start locking Korey out if he's got a non-basic heavy draw.
Brian Boss already at 12, it looks like, just from 2 Thoughtseize and Mental Misstep and some fetch lands. This Mistress Factory beatdown plan could be well within reach.
Yeah, it's crazy how much damage you can just take. It's not even like you're putting Ravnica Duels into play untapped.
Yeah.
And he cracks yet another fetch land.
He had Crack Fetch take 3 on 1, Crack Fetch take 5 on 2, so...
Pretty insane. Yeah, totally using his life as a resource. Brian does need to find a Wasteland to deal with that Mistress Factory.
He's an Either Reliquary in his hand, so... And Korey had no spells as of last we checked, which was, I believe, 2 draw steps ago, so... 3 cards to find an answer that night We'll see.
Draws normally.
Draws a Wasteland. That was clutch.
Wow, what a draw.
Not only does it kill the factory, but it keeps Korey off of Knight of the Reliquary, beating Jace the Mind Sculptor for a turn.
And so now he can Wasteland the factory, and he's got Loam Wasteland set up.
Yes.
So Korey has to be very careful in how he fetches his lands.
Yeah. Looking at his list, Korey has enough basics that he can get to where he wants to. 2 plains, 3 islands, but still.
Yeah, I mean, if all your Mistress Factories are gone,
Yeah.
gonna be a problem.
Especially because, drawing the lands actually is, maybe you won't just draw all fetch lands. Maybe you'll draw some of your 4 tundras.
Yeah, that happens too. I'm not just not gonna not play them, right?
Yeah.
So, just got a report from Caleb Durward, who walked by. He won this round, so he advances to 4-1-1.
Correct.
Watched him in the last match. Really interesting deck. Wild in the Coddles and paired up with Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah. You can cast turn 1 Wild the Coddle, turn 2 Kasali Pride Mage, turn 3 Lightning Bolt, turn 4 Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yep. So Korey Fay trying to figure out how to maneuver his way around the situation. This mana is really constrained, and that Knight of the Reliquary is going to get out of hand really fast. Plus, Brian has Wasteland, plus Life from the Loam, and Brian can hit all the land drops he's ever going to want.
Well, there's a path for that Knight of the Reliquary.
Alright, so Knight gets path.
Brian's going to get some of these snow-covered swamps, or forests. Really no reason for the snow-covered besides its show value, but...
I mean, bluff gifts, bluff scred, I don't know.
Bluff scrying sheets, bluff Maltharonum.
Yeah, bluff Maltharonum. I mean, it could happen.
Misread your deck list.
yeah. That's my concern. Is you always, the small gain you get for bluffing is hampered by the small loss you get from occasionally misregistering your deck list.
Yeah, it's like you're playing a deck people don't normally want Pithy Needle against, and you have fetch lands. I never mix them up. I always just play 4 of whichever one I have. Do not want to misregister that at all.
Yeah, for sure. It's the worst. It's one of the worst ways to get a game lost, knowing that you register snow-covered forest instead of forest or something.
Yep.
Right?
Looks like Brian has a Tarmogoyf in his hand to send the beats in soon. So.
All right, so he can start the aggressiveness that he needs to have.
It's got sorcery, land, enchantment, instant. Don't believe there's a creature, but that's still a reasonably sized Tarmogoyf.
Yep, it'll certainly jumpstart the aggressive strategy.
What is that card? It's a Living Wish.
Living Wish. All right. What do you think he's going to go for here? Maybe Gaddock Teague?
Gaddock Teague would be a good decision.
Tarmogoyf, just for another beater.
I can see Kasali Pride Mage, Gaddock Teague, Tarmogoyf, Hex Mage, Dark Depths, and Wasteland, all as targets.
Looks like he shuffles Teague to the front.
Yeah.
Yep, and he gets Teague, and he's going to cast Teague. So that'll keep Korey Fay off of Jace the Mind Sculptor. Also prevents Force Will and Misdirection.
And Batterskull from being cast from hand, correct?
Batterskull cannot be cast from hand, correct. Still be Mystic into play, of course. But.
That involves, untapping with Mystic, however.
Right.
Stops sideboarded Wrath of God, stops Misdirection or Elspeth if you boarded it in.
Yep. The grizzled old man just says no, get off my lawn.
It's a good one.
Jace, you can go get your football from another yard. Alright. So I don't know what's in Korey's hand. I don't know what he's gripping, but if he does have a Jace, that Gaddock Teague is going to put a big dent in his plans. Alright, and there's Stoneforge Mystic, so that'll find the Batterskull. That Batterskull will be able to come down from the Mystic, but if Brian has a way to deal with the Mystic, it can't be cast under Gaddock Teague.
Right. The Batterskull is also still smaller than a Tarmogoyf, so...
Right.
It's, Tarmogoyf, I believe, has 4 power, 5 toughness right now. I don't see any artifacts, creatures, tribals, or planeswalkers yet.
Are there any tribals? I don't think there are any tribals.
No, not in these decks.
Not in either of these decks.
I have seen an 8/9 Tarmogoyf before.
Oh yeah, I mean, in Bitter Blossom and Legacy, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we had one not too
Warren
long
Weirding?
ago. Yeah, Warren Weirding. I think we had one not too long ago versus one of the black-white junk decks.
Yeah.
There's Bitter Blossom, hit the graveyard, and that's tribal, buddy.
Yep.
So, players each shuffle from for respective reasons. One Stoneforge Mystic, one fetch land.
Brian Boss getting a little low on life, but still reasonably okay.
Sitting at 8. If the Batterskull comes down and Korey has a way to deal with the Tarmogoyf that Brian Boss could cast, then his life total is going to become a serious issue.
Looks like Brian drew a Knight of the Reliquary, so we're a little bit away from that.
All right, serves in with Gaddock Teeg, going to punch Korey for 2.
Yep. Old man smacks you with this game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a Knight of the Reliquary.
There's Knight, and we see Tarmogoyf also.
I think I would lead on the Tarmogoyf there. Just don't want to get the, I don't know what counterspells Korey could have for 1 mana, but rather bait it with the Tarmogoyf first. I guess you could have Daze as the one, so you'd lead on Knight. Never mind.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have Knight in play, right?
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, I also forgot that you were shut off a Forcible from Gaddock Teeg too, which is huge.
Also, shuts off Wrath also, so he doesn't have to worry about getting his entire board blown up.
Yeah, Brian Boss is rapidly proceeding to having everything unlocked in this game state.
Now, worth noting that Mystic can put down a Batterskull. However, Brian's creatures are just larger than a Batterskull is right now. Now, unfortunately for Brian, he doesn't have the secret tech Tower of the Magistrate to lock off that Batterskull.
That's been one that people have been joking about for a while, and then suddenly it's happened.
Yeah, and it looked like serious business when Caleb
really
did it,
means
too.
it. Yeah, especially against those factories. That really means it there.
Yeah, against the factories is good. It's boarding against Affinity, right? It says random uses.
Turn off those cranial platings.
Right, turn off cranial platings. But the big one is definitely shutting off any living weapon.
Yeah, really shutting it off.
And it really shuts off equipment in general, because if you equip your, even if you equip your Batterskull to your Stoneforge Mystic or something, you just be like, all right, well, 1, shove it off.
Korey's looking at a Standstill to put back. Doesn't seem very impressive right now against this board.
Standstill is not the card you want.
No.
Against Tarmogoyf and Nether Reliquary.
Yeah.
I wonder if Standstill was a card that Caleb Durward tried in his 4-color Zoo deck, where you just go turn 1 Wild Nacatl, turn 2 Standstill.
I've seen that in Affinity, and then it kind of plays into a similar role. You just kind of Nacatl, I can imagine that turn 1 Tropical Island, turn 2 Plateau, leading into the curve of Wild Nacatl Standstill is pretty unbeatable.
In one of my overextended tournaments last week, someone did that.
That's where I saw it last.
Yeah, that's where you saw it. Yeah, and I watched him play some games. It seemed insane. He just went turn 1 Nacatl, turn 2 Standstill, and or turn 1 Nacatl, turn 2 Tarmogoyf, turn 3 Standstill. And I was like, all right, what are you gonna do?
Is that another Knight of the Reliquary? That guy gets way out of hand.
All right, Tarmogoyf serves in for, and you said he was 5?
I think he's a 4 right now.
A 4. You said there's no creature, right?
As far as I know, he may have dredged a creature the turn he dredged, however. I can't remember.
Well, we're going to find out here in a second. Korey's life was at 17. How much was taken away? Korey dropping down. Batterskull.
Maybe Batterskull jumps in front and Korey starts cycling the Batterskull Germ Token every time?
Yeah, looks like a 4. Korey drops to 13. No creature anywhere to be found. And there's no Dryad Arbor. Not that I don't think he would do this anyway, but there's no Dryad Arbor to potentially get with Knight and then sacrifice to put a creature in the graveyard.
Yeah. The other thing too is that Brian Boss, at any time if he draws a Vampire Hexmage, you can just threaten this instant kill.
Right, with Dark Depths. Here's the 20/20. What are you gonna do about it?
It looks like he's holding a misstep too.
Wow. Well, he's letting that if he has misstep, that brainstorm is resolving. It's possible he's just a little concerned about being on 8 life.
It's possible he's just waiting for a Swords and those are the only cards that matter.
Yeah, he's also like, I have inevitability. I'm just gonna play, find Hexmage eventually. And,
right.
Not
even that. Just I'm going to kill you with this Tarmogoyf eventually.
Right. Don't Swords me, bro.
Yeah.
And that'll be that. Alright, so Korey thinking pretty hard about what cards to put back. Finally snaps them back on top. Now he's got to make a decision. Taps 1, floats a mana. Uses another Reliquary. What land do you think we're going to go see him get?
Wasteland for that Tundra.
Wasteland for the Tundra? Okay.
Korey just brainstormed without a fetch there, so he might have to keep what he has.
And the other option is Horizon Canopy. If he wants to go a little deeper, he could find Maze of Ith. If he wanted to.
It's true.
To
keep that knight up for that Batterskull.
Yeah.
I like that.
If you're just tuning in, the way it works is when you attack with Nether Reliquary, you can wait till after damage and then Maze of Ith it because you're still in the combat step, still an attacker. So it can play offense, defense, find a land. So good stuff. So let's see. It's going down.
It's like Brian has a Thoughtseize in hand. He's low on life, but I don't know how threatened he actually is here. I guess he could just randomly die to a Vendilion Click, but that Knight of the Reliquary still has the ability to Maze of Ith, so another Tarmogoyf and a Mental Misstep.
Let's see. All right, Tarmogoyf comes down, and Brian just continues to add to the board. Korey's gonna be hard pressed to fight through this. Korey's got a counter spell you can use on that Tarmogoyf, but that just continues to deaden his options against anything else Brian could possibly do. All right, there's the counter spell for the Tarmogoyf. I think he probably has to cast that counter spell.
He's not gonna get to the point where he can protect his Vendilion Click with it, so probably. Let's see, what else is he going to counterspell at this point? Living, like, the Hex Mage combo, but that's not how he's going to die. He could realistically counterspell in the Mental Misstep fight over his swords, but he doesn't really, I don't know if he knows that's what's going to happen. You know, I mean, he's seen Mental Misstep, but I don't know if that's the fight that's going to occur. And I don't even know if he has Wrath of Gods out of the sideboard right now.
I think Brian Boss has been playing this game phenomenally by holding that Mental Misstep.
Yeah.
I think a lot of players would have just jammed it on one of those brainstorms.
Right.
And he's been showing a lot of really patient play by waiting to use it.
When the game's going to go long and your opponent doesn't have the shuffle, countering that brainstorm there just really doesn't matter.
Right. I think a lot of players would have countered it, but Korey's just stuck with 2 dead cards on top. It didn't actually accomplish it that much, and I think, you know, just like what AJ said in his article this week, you know, you really have to wait till you have a fetch land or cards to put back that you don't want, and a combination of things. You can't just snap off the brainstorms all the time. All right, so Brian at 8 life, willing to go down to 6 to fire off a Precarious Thoughtseize. Sees Counterspell and Standstill. Well,
Counterspell and Stone Blank.
Yeah, so take the Counterspell.
6 is an interesting life total. It puts him in 2 Vendilion Click swings.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all assuming he has some way to deal with this Knight of the Reliquary, but...
Alright, so in comes the Knight.
No, this Knight's sacking.
Knight activates. And maybe he just gets Maze of Ith here?
Well, this Batterskull token's dead, so... Let's see, what are his options? He can, Maze of Ith is probably his best value land. Maybe a Horizon Canopy, but I don't really think he needs...
I like Maze because A, you don't die to Vendilion Click that way. B, you can play offensive defense with that Nether Reliquary. Oh, it just goes for the Wasteland.
Yeah.
I think that's a reasonable play too. It's possible I just want to get Maze of Ith too much, playing with the fear, and you might just not need to play with that fear.
It's not even the fear, it's just it's a better clock, I think, just to Maze of Ith. But killing the Tundra does put this Stoneforge Mystic Batterskull combo out of range of just looping every turn. You can't just draw a basic and get there.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Although Brian still hasn't dredged that life from the loam. I'm not sure that he wants to. I'm not saying that he definitely wants to or anything. But it's something he could do, and if he got a Horizon Canopy, he could start using it as a way to draw extra cards, build up his mana base.
I think that his actual cards that he can draw are probably better at this point. Just more creatures, if anything. More creatures, more Mental Missteps, too. Those are the cards that matter. Living Wish, just another creature. Dredging Loam's not terrible, but, you know, you may as well have the chance to just lock out the game and get, like, a Hex Mage and then get Dark Depths or something like that.
Yeah, that's totally possible. Let's see what Brian chooses to do this turn. So he drops Mishra's Factory. And as if on cue, I think Brian goes all the way back for that life from the loam. And flips Extirpate, Dark Depths, Extirpate. So flips both of his sideboard Extirpates. Those are no longer something he can draw. And the Dark Depths is out of his deck now, which is pretty irrelevant. Brian's going to cast it, though, put it into his hand alongside Wasteland and Horizon Canopy. And I think we must be getting low on time in the round. I can't see the clock anywhere, but This game's been
Yeah.
going on for a while.
Yeah.
And these players don't seem to be picking up the pace at all.
So
So
5-6 score now, I think, now that creatures are in there.
sounds about right.
Oh, he's counting for knight. Oh, wow. That guy is huge.
Yeah, that knight is very large.
It might be time for everybody to get in there, and Korey might just have to bin the Stoneforge Mystic on this attack. His last card, one card in hand, right? Brian knows it's a standstill, so
It's pretty safe attack.
yeah. That is a giant knight now. It's... I don't know what the numbers are, but it's almost feasible that he might not have wanted all of those lands back.
Yeah, well, as long as the knight is a 6/6, it doesn't matter, right?
6? I think it might need to be a bit bigger than a 6/6. Because that Stoneforge, he wants it to be lethal with the Stoneforge. Looks like he might be 1 or 2 short of making the Stoneforge jump this turn.
Well, let's see. Tarmogoyf is how big?
Tarmogoyf's a 5/6.
Right, so 6 plus 5 plus 2. I mean, that puts him.
Well, I
if
think
we're
I
dead within
counted the
2
knight as an
turns.
8, but I
You
could have
better
been
have-
wrong going through. He was flashing through. It was pretty fast.
I mean, I definitely would have attacked before casting Light from Loam. That seems like really out of order.
Well, he has to get the wasteland back to kill the factory.
Just so the T doesn't die.
No, well, not even that. Just so that the Stoneforge Mystic's forced to block and gets the Battle Skull out of
Sure.
the equation. Yeah, Korey. Okay, so it was lethal. The knight only had to have 8 lands. And
Yeah, I mean, I assume Brian counted and knew what he was
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
All right, that's that.
That is the match, and Brian Boss proceeds to 6-0 with this Hex Mage Brew, which apparently is just doing very well. Just
Yeah.
coming out of nowhere.
Has a couple different players. Apparently,
a couple different builds too.
yeah, so when we were talking to Kenny Mayer earlier about his build, he said some player called MTG Collector on Magic Online is what's been really pushing this deck. And apparently a couple players have different ideas. Brian Boss playing his own take on it. Kenny's is playing almost a straight up MTG Collector's version.
Right.
And both players are doing really well with it. Brian Boss moves to 6-0. Kenny was X1 last time I checked. So it's very, very well done for these two players. We'll see if we can push one into the top 8.
I know it's been floating around for a little bit, but it definitely has not really received any attention until now. I don't know what shifted in the metagame to cause it to become so much better, but it might just be that Knight of the Reliquary gets better.
Yeah. Knight of the Reliquary is certainly really good right now. So
Yeah, that card has just been basically kind of the story of this format right now. You know, the unfair decks have kind of been weeded out a little bit, even though Ben Weinberg's doing so well with Hive Mind.
Yeah.
And so all you have are, playing what people would call normal Magic, I guess. And Knight of the Reliquary is pretty good at, this toolbox that you don't really have in the format without survival.
normal everyday Magic, like
Yeah.
2020 creatures.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, sure.
Left alone wasteland
They're
lots.
still creatures. They're still in play.
It's true. You're not doing it the Ari Lax way. The Storm combo, the Hive
Sure.
Minds.
Sure.
Even although we did see a Dredge deck, I